Oklahoma U.S. Senator James Lankford has released the 7th volume of Federal Fumbles and introduced his findings to the Senate this week. In it, Senator Lankford details ways in which he says the government is wastefully spending money. This, of course, on the heels of crunch time for the president and Congress to reach a deal on the nation's debt ceiling. So here with us today in studio is Senator Lankford. I know you got in late last night, Senator, from D.C., so we appreciate you making the time for us here today.
Thank you.
So this is the 7th time you've done this report, of course. Does it feel different, though, this time around with so much at stake right now in terms of the nation's debt? What do you think?
It is. We actually hadn't planned when we started writing the prep on this that it would land at the same time the debt ceiling negotiations are going on. And we just do it each year, and each year is a little different. Some year we dealt, like last year, more in the process. What is debt? Where does it come from? We dealt some years with some of the entitlement programs and some of the other things. This year we dealt with some of the wasteful spending and some of the regulatory issues. But it's interesting to be in a season where some people are saying, hey, just increase the debt ceiling. There is no wasteful spending. This is not the time to talk about it. Just keep going. We're now releasing this and saying, hey, there are some areas that we all should sit down as grown-ups and say, is that really a federal priority? It's not roads and bridges and water and national defense. This is a butterfly study in Europe where we hired a Swedish scientist to study butterflies in Germany. Is that really what we want to do with federal tax dollars?
We'll get back to the debt ceiling just a bit, but let's talk federal fumbles. You do your top 10 every year. So tell me some of the key takeaways this year from the top 10.
Oh, we had several. It's a mix. Some are grants and some are the earmarks that came out. Napa Valley, California got an earmark this year. That was $4 million for a wine walking trail through Napa Valley. It's one of the wealthiest communities in the entire world through Napa Valley, and why the people of Oklahoma have to help pay for their walking trail, I have no idea. There was a study about colonial sounds in Mexico where we literally sent people down to study the sounds of Mexico and to be able to create a document for it. There's also the State Department actually put out a what they called a cultural experience of the American experience, and hired and paid for 12 drag shows in Ecuador with American tax dollars. People may have all kinds of different ideas about drag shows. My question is, why are American tax dollars being done there to be able to show this is American value on it? We need to be able to demonstrate who we are worldwide, and we have a fantastic country that we need to be able to tell the story of our diversity and of our joy and of our free press and all those things. But when we're doing things like we did on a French study to study the secret language of butchers in Paris, it just makes me ask the question, people are working 2 jobs to pay their taxes, and they end up paying for a study of the French secret language of butchers in Paris. I just don't think that's what people are thinking when they pay their taxes.
One of the top 10 also was in Yuma, Arizona. Yeah. You mentioned $2.5 million to redevelop downtown Yuma, and you stated in there not necessarily to help with, the border crisis. It got me thinking about Title 42, obviously expiring. This is a lot of talk of what's going on at the border. Some reports are saying that there has not been this influx of migrants since that expired. Curious to know your thoughts with Title 42.
So let me just take Yuma, Arizona. Yuma, Arizona, a town of 100,000 people total in Yuma, Arizona, border town there. They've had 300,000 people illegally cross that town of 100,000 just in the past year. So they've absolutely been overrun. The days leading up to Title 42 expiring a week and a half ago now, they had up to 10,000 people a day that were crossing illegally. Title 42 changed. Biden administration put in a different policy telling people they had to request asylum a little bit differently. That number's dropped to about 4,000. Now, from 10,000 to 4,000 is a really good drop, but the kind of the running joke in D.C. is it's gone from crisis to catastrophe to just back to crisis again, because 4,000 is a much bigger number than what we can actually handle in a day. They actually have housing and processing for up to 1,500 people a day, and they're getting 4,000 people a day. So I'm going to be back down at the border next week, some to be able to ask questions. How's it working? What's happening? I want to be productive in this conversation. That's my focus, not just to complain, but to say, how do we fix this? What needs to be tweaked so we can get the number from 4,000 to actually down to a manageable number? And so it frees up our Border Patrol to chase guys in camouflage and backpacks hauling drugs across our border rather than just arresting migrants that should go through a legal process, not through an illegal process.
All right, so we'll definitely look forward to checking back in with you after that visit, see what you found. Let's get back to the debt ceiling, though, just because so many Americans are worried about it right now, so many Oklahomans, so it's kind of a lot of anxiety about what could happen. This week, though, there seemed to be maybe some optimism between the House Speaker and the administration. What do you think? Is optimism too big of a word to use right now?
I think it's a good word. Okay. So the president for 98 days said, I don't want to talk to Kevin McCarthy. I'm not going to talk to him. Kevin McCarthy over and over again said, we've got to sit down and talk. They are actually sitting down to talk. Now they both assigned staff leaders to be able to sit down. They're sitting down literally every single day. Debt ceilings are something that makes everybody scary to think we don't want to go over it. We shouldn't go past the debt ceiling. But we've also faced this year after year after year. This has been around since 1939. Remember, Speaker Pelosi wouldn't raise the debt ceiling for President Trump until President Trump agreed to increase spending. And so she literally held what they called leverage on the president and wouldn't increase the debt ceiling until she could get more spending. Kevin McCarthy's doing the opposite. He's saying, hey, we're spending too much. And he's doing the exact same conversation. So it's not atypical around a debt ceiling to actually talk about spending and about debt. Are we on the right direction? We have $31.5 trillion in total debt. That's more debt than every single person in America makes in a year. We have more than that right now in federal debt. It is entirely reasonable to sit down and to say, okay, what are we going to do to change the trajectory of our spending? Can't fix it in a year, but we should start at least taking baby steps to start turning this around.
If we were to default, though, I mean, do you think what do you think would be the biggest effect for Oklahomans and Americans?
We're not going to default.
Okay.
Let me say it that way.
Okay.
We're not going to default because we are still working on it together. We never have defaulted. We shouldn't. No one in D.C. wants to be able to see a default. There's really two dates that are sitting out there. Janet Yellen, who's Secretary of the Treasury, she said it could be as early as June the 1st, though she's hedging and saying it's probably not June 1st, but it could be that early. If it gets to June 15th, that is a quarterly tax payment time. If we get to June 15th, there's a lot of money comes in from around the country paying taxes, so that date could go all the way out until August. I predict that we get this resolved before June 15th. If it's after June 15th, again, we've got a couple more months of just revenues going in. At the end of the day, we still have to resolve it. It doesn't matter. We have to sit down, again, have a grown-up conversation and say, what are we going to do? What's the direction? What's the best way to be able to stabilize our future?
Kind of a timely time to have you on to talk about these federal fumbles today. Senator Lankford, as always, thank you so much for your time. We will post the full report as well for our viewers. If you guys would like to view it, post it on our website. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Okay, good to see you.